today the idea is to introduce you to the course. So I have prepared a PowerPoint that summarizes 3 years of education that you will take if you are successful in your application to NIDA. Yeah, great. So I might start with one of the first projects that we do here at NIDA, and one of the most probably important skills that you will gain when you are here at NIDA. And it's scenic art. So basically, we introduce you to scenic art. One of the first things that we do is introduce you to relation or learning how to do many type of textures, architectural textures, from bricks to timbers and anything basically. But as well, we use that knowledge to set up this project called the Scenic Portrait, where each one of you will be taking an image of yourselves, compose it, do a bit of the dressing. After that, you will be photographing that, and we introduce you to Photoshop and digital graphic skills, basically, and then show you how you can that image, how you can make that image larger in a larger scale for theatrical purpose or for background purposes. And through this process, the idea is to study color composition and as well being confronted with a larger scale image of your own. And all of this is in regard to an artist that we put as the main topic to explore. So it's always a style behind that marries all the projects together. Parallel to this first semester, where we introduce you to this other project called Sculptural Myths, which is about learning how to do hand sculpture, but as well to the digital sculpting, and through that 3D scanning, and then combining these digital skills with hybrids. In a hybrid realization process, or hand skills, I will say. So a lot of the things that we do, we introduced, digital and analog skills, and we ask you to combine them in the process of learning, as we think that this contemporary way of doing objects, making objects. As well, part of the first approach to understanding storytelling is we have a project called Cultural Artifacts, where we ask the student to study a culture of their own choice. And find within that objects that could be symbols of that culture, that could tell us the story of those cultures. So each one student have to fabricate 2 objects, understand the different techniques and processes, and then combining them with more props making techniques, and realize 2 replicas of objects that they have found during their research. In this case here, you can see a rattle and a hammer. Of course, we didn't kill a turtle. That's scenic art there, where we vacuum foam. We use plastic to create a tortoise shell, and then scenic art techniques to finalize it. Another project as well that we have, we call it a workshop foundation skills. Again, the idea is creative storytelling and apply technical skills. But the foundational skills that you will be gaining through this course is woodwork, metalwork, polymers, and scenic textures. So even when we study them in isolation, we always combine them to finalize our objects. And with those objects, then we ask you to create narrative. So it's inverting the process where the object is the one leading the story, more than typically realizing having a story and then realizing the object for the story. So we want to ensure that you understand the power of objects in cultural settings as well, in theatrical settings, and how they can be so influential to tell a story, basically. And another thing that we do in first year as a way of introducing you to 3D modeling and drafting and rendering skills, and of course model making, is the furniture project. So in difference to the sculptural project that I mentioned earlier, this one is more is 3D modeling as by adding components than sculpting away like clay you do. So we replicate again different processes that exist in the analog world, but as well in the digital world. And so in this case, we will introduce you to Rhino to create models of these pieces of furniture or pieces of your choice. We give you a collection of pieces, and then you choose from there. So then you can create renderings and visualization of this work, and then that inform making skills using laser cutters, 3D printers, and again digital techniques. So basically, in a nutshell, that's the first semester and the content that we have to deliver. And here in the second semester, then you realize that piece of furniture. So again, all this study that you did through drawing, through 3D modeling, through model making, then it's come into a real object. So basically, it's a full cycle project where we start from conceptualization, development, and realization. As you can see here, both chairs have been completely done by our students. Very complex pieces to do. The one on the left have metal components, so a lot of soldering and welding, and working with hard metals. I will say in this case is steel, and then fine timber work. In the other piece next to it as well, you can see laminating pieces, very complex to do. So it's a lot of molds to do, and then all these skills, that are more traditional in timber making. And upholstery as well. We introduce you to upholstery. So in many things that we do for films, television, and theater, we have to fix furniture, and that includes typically finding all pieces that have to be reinvigorated and make to look as new again. Another project that we do in second semester is the Quarry Project, as we call it. Within that project, we introduce you to molding and casting techniques, leatherwork, pattern making, detail modeling skills, detail fabrication. So basically, we keep adding techniques and skills, but then you keep carrying on the previous technique and applying it to the new projects. So it's always an crescendo of techniques and processes. In this case, you can see armors, leather in particular, Roman and Japanese armor. In the last year, we have moved into more character development within this project. So it's including all this technique, and the students come with their own ideas towards film in particular, where the quality and the functionality of these pieces have to be to a great standard, so they can accept close-ups, but as well, stand work and more dynamic movements, I would say, of the actors when wearing these pieces. So this was done last year. So each student take a component, they develop the character together within a narrative, and then each one of them take a component and keep further developing, and together they come up with the final resolution. Then this just takes us to second year. So I was telling you earlier that in first year you all work with a sculptural myth, where you learn how to sculpt by hand, and then 3D scanning and 3D modeling and 3D printing and finishing a maquette. Well, that maquette actually is to influence or be the main reference for the realization of a larger sculpture in the beginning of first year. So the idea of the myth and the context of this pieces get expanded into a larger space, basically. So this is the outcome of these pieces, of this work, which is, the sculptures are exhibited typically in NIDA's foyer or around the building to show scheduled work, and within that tell the story of these pieces as well. So this work takes around 6 to 8 weeks to work on it. Meanwhile you have other classes. After we finish the architectural model project, we move into this project called architectural models, and that is to influence or to inform the making of a short film. So a lot of these techniques in model making then are applied to make another model in collaboration with writers, the MFA writers here at NIDA, and together you realize a film, basically. As you can see in here, so there are some of the models realized for those films in previous years. So it's a bit of storytelling here, working to scale, but as well in particular working to the camera lens, learning to work, with close-ups and detail, but as well understanding objects as a whole, or as well how a lot of the detail in this model is the one that tells the story. So it's a lot of close-ups that our students learn. So we introduce you to filmmaking techniques and editing techniques as well, so you can create your own short film. Typically, it's around 3 to 5 minute short film, which then are exhibited in a public presentation of them here at NIDA. So they are shared with all the other cohorts. Another project that we do, this is taking us to second semester of the second year, is in practical effects. For us, it's practical effects, but within the context of a magic show. So actually, currently, right now, students are working in those tricks or practical effects for a live performance. In this case, as you can see, was for another production that we did a couple of years ago. And it seemed very simple, a large object, the table there and all these chairs and the rest of the set. But actually, the beauty, I would say, of this piece is that it gets broken every night. and then fix. And if you look at actually the shares as well, most of them are broken. Again, every night they have to be put together. So it's a lot of learning and practical project that we need this sort of a skill, realize objects that have some trickery, magic, illusion. So yeah, this project for us help us to develop more these skills. Then after we finish that magic show or this practical effects project, it varies every year, might change the theme. We move into delivering again more tools for storytelling. In this case, mask making. As everybody know, masks are very important tool to tell and narrate ideas. So we introduce it to different skills and techniques to make masks, but this is all done within the context of a puppet show. So the masks are actually to inform my story. So in here you can see other sample of prosthetics as well that could be added for this, like this to infer the body somehow and change and create character and stories through that process. And then the puppet making, as I was mentioning before. So the puppet varies. So every student have different interests and different skills. So we support those different interests. In here you can see a soft puppet made out of more traditional techniques. On the left, Goody Allen there, mainly out of fabrics and foams. But in the middle you see a more complex puppet with some mechanics and electronics internally in the head and the mouth and the eyes, but it's done out of latex and other plastics, and then of course fabrics and hair. And in the right hand side, the red puppet is a more it's a completely wooden puppet, except of the neck, where there is a hidden mechanism so it can be manipulated and can articulate the head. As you can see, the hand of the puppeteer is on the top of the back of the puppet, but from there the head can take different movements. So yeah, again, every student realize the puppet that they want, and together they put a show with the mask, the puppets, and they have to create a set and perform this show to the piece and NIDA. For this project as well, you are introduced to puppeteering classes and mask making performing classes as well, and then into management of venues and stage. So in here, there is a link if any of you is interested in having a look of the puppet show from 2019. So every year we do a different show. We try to record, depending on the show, we record and we put it for public use. This is a very interesting show. It's very nice for children, so you're welcome to invite the little ones if you would like them to have a look to a nice story. So that's basically how we finished the end of the year. This was the show for last year. Again, as you can see, all the students with the mask and the puppet and they set. So yeah, every year is a different story, different puppets, different students, of course. Typically, we collaborate with an outdoor organization. We would always try to take this out of the building as it's it's a small company of puppeteers, and it's good that they learn how to move around and travel with all the puppets and sets. And then this takes us to the last year, NIDA, where we don't give you a specific brief, but we ask you to come up with a brief with your own criteria of success. So it's a project of completely your interest. In two cases here, you can see a student designing and making their own orc bust. And in the other side, you can see a student, making a full costume here from a video game. So again, clearly you can see video game influences here, or film influences, Lord of the Rings. Some students take it into more live performance as well than movie. It's up to every student to decide what project they would like to do, and we will support that project and guide the student in the regard. Here's a couple more projects. Again, one of them quite film, as you can see. This alien creature there. It actually is a puppet. Have a lot of movement, full body movement. Including the tongue/head, mouth coming open and out. And the other side, which is a very interesting character, is this old man that you can see on the screen. But if you look at the hand, actually the hand is not old. So really it's a mask. The student here recreated a mask of an old man that can be worn and actually can follow movements. So again, that's for an object for live performance, but as well for entertaining in general. So basically, another thing that we do here, apart from the course delivery, is that we have productions where we all collaborate with across all cohorts from NIDA, from costume students, design students, technical theater and stage managers, sets builders, and you name it. Every one of the departments sends students, and we create companies, and you realize larger productions. In this case, as you can see, it's a large puppet that we realized for a production called Ex Machina. Very interesting show to work. And yeah, the challenges comes, with every design, give us a different experience, different challenge. And the idea is that our third year students are the supervisors of these props for these shows, and they supported by the first year student as assistants, and that's how we, work towards this production. Here's another image of another production. In this case, we did that massive furniture piece in the middle there with the center table. And it looks very simple and round, but actually it's spinning too. So, and you have to support the weight of the actors as it spins. So a very complex object, mechanical elements go into the set to be able to to produce these massive contractions. So yeah, it's a life experience. Students get to work in the theater a lot, work with the P, with actors, with technicians. With supervisors and mentors coming from the industry, and then they are, live production for the public to come and see. So yeah, fantastic experience for the students to be part of. And that we are lead at that. Of course, live performance is one of the main avenues for our students when they leave the building. In here, I have put cases as the Opera Australia, Sinister Company, and Bilbao. They're quite well-respected company theaters with large productions. So a lot of the students go and work in these productions as they need it. But as another thing as well that we do is events, like New Year's Eve events or Vivid, or any large-scale event when skills of makers and designers and people that can realize this type of creatures in this case, or these fantasy worlds, as soon as those skills are required, our students could work into them. As you can see here in Cactus, that's actually alumni from NIDA here. They work for Vivid 2019 and produced the B-Topia piece. And the Earth, which is a partnering company, we always work with them, and they realize the large-scale puppet as well. And of course, films. A lot of students after this, in particular, the last years, they have worked in many films. Here in Australia, got Egypt a few years ago, Peter Rabbit, and then Aquaman lately, but as well in the latest Disney franchise. As well, our students go overseas and work, in industry overseas. In this case, Katie Williams, she moved to London. She's been working over there for a few years. She's back now after the pandemic, but she was working there for many years. Isle of Dog was one of the main things that she was working, as you can see. An image there, she created, helping to create these dogs for the film. And then, of course, other more spectacular movies, I would say, more popular movies, as you see the Martian again. It was done based in London, and Ron Wills was one of our main tutors. That not tutors, pardon me, alumni that work in the. I mean tutor because he sometimes comes and does some teaching for us too. But yeah, so great experience. People working in industry that have gone through NIDA education, they come back, to share their experiences and keep the community going. That's a very important thing here in NIDA, that when you come to NIDA, you become part of a community that will last the rest of your life, and it's something that we promote among our students. So yeah, there's more technical information. That's from the previous years. I won't get into that as I can respond to that later, or the CELCA department can respond to questions regarding to costs and scholarships and administrative things. But yeah, thank you very much for coming today. And any question, please feel free to contact me or contact NIDA, and they will direct you to me. So thank you again, and I hope to see you around. If you have any question, please stay around.
Yeah, it says, what are you looking for in a portfolio to make it stand out?
Mm-hmm. I will say that one of the things that typically stand out when we see your own work and a classic and an obvious process of investigation, a bit of methodology, I would say. So a lot of people chose as the outcome of which is great, but typically we look as well to see how did you get to that outcome. So because that's something that we want to teach you here, process. So we need to understand how you relate to process, and how that lead to a final outcome. So I will say that a good portfolio for us is not only the final outcome, but as well a bit of the process, and also some descriptions, some notes, something that help us to understand where you come from. Within that, the concept that you're using that is foundational to the project. That could be, a story. That could be anything, basically, anything that is important for you. So because anything could be part of the concept that is the base for your final work. So if you are able to articulate that, typically that is a really good thing to understand. And of course, good quality images. Don't take low quality images and then try to make it larger. You just get too much pixels on it. So yeah, that would be more a technical thing to do. But of course, we understand that not necessarily you have a extended portfolio yet. So as I said to you, if you don't have many things to show us, bring everything that you have done, that you have been a part of it. What I mean by that is, for example, if you work in a show or with other peers or classmates or friends, you have made objects or projects in general, show us that too, and then tell us what component of that you have worked on and explain that to us. So yeah, the portfolio is a talking point for us to understand how you think and how you relate to work with others.
Next question. Can you please tell us about the application process?
Mm-hmm. Of course. Look, at the moment, the application process is open at NIDA. So basically, you have to apply and enroll. This year, there is no fee attached to enroll in that process. So firstly, you have to fill in a questionnaire to be enrolled in that process, and after that, we will ask you to send us your portfolio. Then we will review those portfolios and we'll ask you to come for an interview if we think that you are suitable for the course. I will argue that most people that have applied previously for the course have been suitable for the course. It's just that we don't have enough capacity to take everybody. But I would say that when you're looking at a course like this, it's because you know what you like and where you want to go with that. So yeah, typically you will be suitable for the course. So yeah, within the interview and within the thing that you sent to us, we want to see a bit of a narrative. Basically, any object that you have made before. As I said to you, could be a collaboration, could be something that you did at high school, could be a new thing that you're gonna make up for NIDA. It's completely up to you. But what we want to understand is how you relate your ideas to these final objects. We're not asking for any material in particular, any technique, anything. It's fully free of your own. So you decide what you want to present yourself with. You bring this story, and we want to see the story that you bring. No, not the story that we want you to cover. So yeah, so anything could be an object that you make for your grandma, for your parents, and it have a emotional connotation. That'd be great too. So just bring objects that could have a narrative, and you are able to explain that to us.
Next question. Is there a project for this year's application?
Actually, I was just covering that. No, this year we free it. A few years ago, we have to have very strict projects. Now we have taken a different view. We want to see what you bring. So actually, no, it's not a specific project. It's something that you feel comfortable showing us and comfortable to talk about and comfortable to be questioned about too. So yeah, anything, any project would do it.
Yep. And next question, how does COVID affect the teaching session, especially if you have complicated topics to discuss and access to equipment?
That's a very, very good question. Look, last year we did 8 weeks, I will say, online. So we move a lot of the theoretical content ahead last year. It's context that we don't need the equipment basically, because yeah, a lot of you want to come to NIDA because we have good facilities and we have good teachers, good access to knowledge and to share the knowledge across cohorts. So what we tend to do in this instance is that we move the theoretical or the development process or the design processes online, and then we move ahead projects. I'm so waiting for the time we come to the building and get together and realize them. So that at the moment, that has been the tactic, I will say, the technique to do that, to go through these processes. Last year, we have a digital theater festival, which basically we set up smaller companies and all the design conceptualization and development was done online. And then we have 4 weeks after the lockdown, come back to a building and realize those shows. This year, we're doing a similar thing within the course. So the first 4 weeks now we are working remotely, developing ideas. Some students have set up their own workshops, spaces. We send in tools and equipment when it's safe to them. We're giving access to computers, software. Because as well we do a lot of work with digital technologies, we're able to continue some of that work. But if the student needs access, let's say, to the laser cutter, somebody will be in the building doing the work for you, then posting it back to you, and then you keep working. As well as students have come and collect tools from the building. So yeah, we're not getting together, but still we're trying to support, or we are supporting basically, access to equipment as much as possible, and then setting up a special location with one student might come by themselves, and work with a machine, and somebody will be there to support them. So yeah, we're treating it case by case. Luckily, we have 6 students per cohort, so our numbers are not that detrimental for getting together. Last year, after the first lockdown, we can still go back. What I mean by this, the 4 square meters rules that we have to follow, and mass and all of that. We were able to return to the building much earlier than other universities because our classes are really small and our workshops are big enough to have the people back. So somehow we've been able, to manage. And I think that this year we will continue trying to come up with new ideas and see how we can keep support education. And sometimes as well, we delay the content and later on, we do it in a more concentrated way so you can still get the skill that you're looking for.
Next question, how intense is the course?
The course, it is intense. I will start saying that. The intensity in terms of hours, that could be a way of measuring it. Typically, it is a full week. Works in the full on the weekends. All of them not necessarily work. Some of them are quite committed to the course as well, and they spend more than 8 hours a day. But yeah, I believe that a minimum requirement will be around 35 hours a week, plus other hours that you have to put here and there for homework. Yeah, and I will say that is intense. But a lot of students, get very strong about they're very strong about their work commitments or NIDA commitment. So sometimes we say to them, please you don't have to be here, but still they want to be around. So yeah, I think the intensity as well is driven by peace and by your own interest, to be in the building and make the most of it. So yeah.
Next question. I'm interested in the course and quite talented in drawing, but I do not have hands-on experience in props making. Will it be difficult for me?
You said you have experience in?
A lot of experience. He's good at drawing, but do not have hands-on experience in props making.
Yeah. Look, a lot of, again, I imagine that a lot of people is coming out of high school, not necessarily have interest, in yet or the experience or access to equipment. So part of us is to train you and to show you, those techniques. An interest in drawing is fundamental for us. That's how ideas typically come out. This day with digital technologies in particular, a lot of them that drawing skills have become, digital skills, 3D modeling, 3D sculpting, and then supported by the use of equipment. So every student shape their careers or the education a bit.
Another question, will all the equipment tools we're going to need be available at NIDA?
Yes, I would say yes. Most of that include materials. So material and equipment, there is a base set of tools that we will say, it's good for you to have. And of course, PPE and things like that too. But yeah, it's made just life easier. But there's not many actually, like a set of pliers, rulers, hammer. The really basic one that you can go and talk to grandma or grandpa, and look at the shed, and probably you will find them. And then probably the key one that everybody should have is a drill, a battery drill. That will be the only one, I would say. But there is one tool here that is quite fundamental, and it's quite good to have. And it's not probably the typical one that you're thinking, but computer. We have computers here, for the student, but in the long term, it's a very important tool to have that will ease a lot of the work that you do. So yeah, think of computers as a very fundamental tool, I would say.
Next question: can you give us examples of the jobs people get after the course?
Yeah, so for example, I might start from last year. So out of last year, graduated 3 students. Yep. One of them was working in Fox Studios, 2 of them actually, in one of the latest Disney movies there. That finished filming like a month, 2 months ago, something like that. But events is a very common industry as well for our students to work on, making large sculptures or installations. Some people that set dressing for commercial companies. A lot of people do models as well, architectural models or models for commercials. So commercial is another avenue of work too, as well TV. People do for example, prop buying or the props manager in a TV show. And then there's people that move into more an art practice as well, where they work with artists or on their own right and try to do one-off commissions and things like that. So there's actually many possibilities. It's just the set of skills that allow you to transition between different design, art, and entertainment industries. Yeah, so it's a lot.
Who are the usual partners or practitioners you collaborate with?
Look, we have within NIDA, in terms of students' work, we collaborate with all the other cohorts. What I mean by that, the same, for example, technical theater and state managers. So from there, we have our students get to know people that work as state managers or technical workers, people that does video editing might be, or people that does lighting. Due to the nature of the show that we do, our students get to collaborate with a lot of people for a lot of cohorts, and those cohorts have their own tutors that come from the industry. So actually, it's quite broad. Designers as well, I would say, a lot of theater designers, film a few times as well. We collaborate with writers as well, directors as well, then puppet makers, puppet directors as well that come from other companies. Then we have people that, for example, Alex from SDC, he comes in a few sessions as well. SDC as Cine Theater Company, the head of props department there comes and does some sessions. Then we have a mask performer that comes and show you how to deal with masks and things like that. Puppeteers as well. Yeah, and alumni as well is quite important for us to keep linking you with alumni. So we invite them to do different talks. Again, some of them have been working in costume props, other is in special effects, other in set dressing, as I was saying before, or prop buying. So yeah, it's a variety of collaborators that comes. In terms of teachers, we have people from again, we really like people that work in the industry because not only they know, but as well they're good connections for us. So people from the opera house, this is the portrait work. And then as well, we have people that works with digital design and visualizations, might come and do talks or run classes, and our own tutors as well. I work full-time at NIDA, but the other people that work in the department, they work part-time, so they have their own practices in the industry. So they always are linked that keep us, connecting our students to the industry in general.
Yep. Next question. How often do you hold your productions, and does it mean that we actually work in those productions?
So basically here at NIDA, we have 3 production seasons. Semester 1 in term 2, basically, the first one from April until July. And then we have a similar season in September and October and beginning of November, that's season 2. And then in November, December, we have another season called Festival of Emerging Artists. In each one of these season, in season 1 and season 2, there are around 4 to 5 shows each, and in Festival of Emerging Arts, around 6 or 7 shows. So students from third years are supervisors of season 1 and season 2, and the students from first years are the assistants of those productions, season 1 and season 2. First year students work in the morning in class time, and in the afternoon in the production, but as assistants. But by the end of the production, when we go into venue, they become crew members. So they not only work in the workshop, they as well work in live production twice. And our third years are the supervisor of this production. So they work from the workshop, they have to attend meetings, organize all the props, manage the budgets and all of that. And they, as I said to you, supervise. They maintain the shows, but they don't have to crew the shows. And in second year, in the end of that year, our students work in the Festival of Emerging Artists as prop supervisors. They are smaller shows, but very, very interesting shows because they are done 3 or 2 shows per venue. So it's massive. It's a quick changeover of sets and all of it. So they're very interesting use of equipment, props, and materials. So yeah, so basically all around the year, in every semester you will be working in a production, except for second year, when you're only working then. But in second year, we have the short film, which is a sort of production too, which is within the course and the writers. And in the second semester as well, we have the puppet show. As well, this is a production within the properties department, and they collaborate with other students from as they request them. So yeah, it's a lot of production actually that we do. Yeah, thank you very much for attending today, and I hope that it was informative, and anytime soon to hear from you. Thanks.